All right, we are on, and as requested by somebody in the comments, I enlarged the mouse cursor, so I hope this is big enough for you guys. Let's go get everything started. Here, here, mute myself, edit video. Then we go out, we go over here. We turn this on until I get not demonetized, I guess. They really haven't been doing that to me since late August, I guess. I guess they don't care anymore. Then we come over here. I won't be coming back here anyways, but switch that. Switch over here is where I'll actually see it. Go over here. Google Earth. Try to keep this under an hour. Come on, Google Earth. You got this. You can do it. All right. Got that. And we get this. We retweet the cats, of course. And we go to bookmarks to have all that ready. And I drink some water. Wait to see if anybody shows up at all. I messaged Josh, so he should be here. In theory, at least. And I apologize if any sudden loud noises happen. My parents' neighbor is doing like outside power washing stuff. So obviously I have no control over that. Yeah, I enlarged the mouse cursor like somebody in the comments asked. So I hope this is good enough. And I did try to find the stuff that I've seen like quote unquote professional streamers do where they're able to like draw like MS Paint on Google Earth. But I was not able to actually find that. Also, Google searching stuff is kind of messed up right now in the modern days because when I searched for that, pages and pages of results were literally just quotes telling me to use the polygon tool, which is not what I was asking. I very specifically, even at some points, like tried typing in how to like, draw MS Paint overlay over Google Earth. And there was one thing that was supposedly a like plug-in add-on software that lets you do it, but when I went to it, it was really, really suspicious and sketchy, so I wasn't about to download it. But anyways, we have all of this to get into once we actually start. Anybody shows up? 4, 3. Right. If anybody shows up after, you're just gonna have to rewind to see what you missed. So last time I told you guys things were flowing down. They dropped down to, in terms of IDF airstrikes throughout Lebanon here, they slowed down to only around like 50 per night. Now, over the last few days, they've suddenly ramped it back up again, with the large part being around Beirut, of course. But they've gone back to not the 300 per night that they were doing in the first 2 weeks of it, but they have gone back up over 100 airstrikes per night and are apparently about to start heavy bombing Tyre, probably carpet bombing Tyre, if I had to guess, because they, dropped the leaflets and things and like did this mass act text message spam thing across like all devices in the area, telling the city to like empty out and evacuate. So I'm assuming they're about to Gaza carpet bomb Tyre at any particular points coming up now. Yeah, that was this is going to be the primary target zone, but the concussion waves and explosive effects are probably going to destroy a huge amount in the surrounding area, which is why the message is there telling everyone to like get out of the city. That has not started yet, at least as of last I checked, but that's probably going to start like I don't know, tonight or tomorrow night or something. And the ground combat stuff still ongoing, still no like that, still not that much real like movement by movement information or like actual footage because like I said before, this is kind of empty hills for the most part. There's not really a bunch of people around like able to film stuff and immediately like put it up on TikTok or Telegram or whatever. So that is ongoing. And they just stepped up again the airstrikes, most of which have been on Beirut, and now apparently are about to assumedly start leveling Tyre. And they did do more airstrikes recently in Syria, some right in the capital itself, and took out several Hezbollah like higher up people who were visiting, and some is Iranian Revolutionary Guard colonels or generals who were there at the same time as well. Meanwhile, the or oh yeah, actually over here first, they've received several anti-ballistic missile air defense systems or THAAD systems from the U.S. over the last couple weeks, which is a indicator that we both do expect that Iran will apparently actually back up its threat to respond to Israel's response once Israel does respond, which I would expect the most likely time for that, since they didn't do it this past weekend, would now be this coming weekend, because 3 or 4 weeks was the usual gap in the past between when they would start airstriking Iran after Iran had launched some kind of attack. So assumably, we're expecting that Iran actually will back up this threat again to launch another ballistic missile wave at Israel if and when Israel carries out a air campaign against Western Iran. In the meantime, without any strikes from Israel, Iran started having some issues already, further issues with its oil and gas infrastructure around Bandar. One of, or sorry, there's multiple bandars. One of the bandars in the Khuzestan region, which is where most of their oil production is, most of their gas is offshore in the Persian Gulf. Most of their oil is onshore in Khuzestan. But one of their larger refineries in their oil producing region just exploded on its own. Neither Israel nor Iran is claiming that this was like an airstrike or anything. So this was just a poorly maintained, the result of something being poorly maintained, like the one before that, back at the beginning of this year, I think it was in Nizhny Novgorod in Russia, that's just blew on its own. I think this is Nizhny, right? How far do I have to zoom in? Are you going to show me the name? No, that's Kirov. Oh, there it is. Okay. But yeah, uh, there was a drone attack, a Ukrainian Beaver drone swarm attack this year on the Nizhny Novgorod refinery, but that was a few months after, at the very start of the year, one portion of the refinery just exploded of its own accord. So similar has occurred to one of Iran's larger refineries in the Khuzestan region down here, which is where a lot of its refineries are because that's where most of its oil fields are. So now they are on the verge of having internal, like actual refined fuel issues, gasoline and diesel and jet fuel and the like, as they're, they have, enough oil, obviously, but you kind of need the actual refining capacity, or you kind of need to actually refine it into the fuels first. So they're about to have internal domestic issues with that, even without any potential IDF airstrikes on their oil and gas infrastructure. And this is on top of, remember, the issues they already are having internally with their natural gas supply, because to maintain their oil production and to keep trying to push it further up over 3 million barrels per day back towards 4, they have to keep increasing the ratio, the volume of natural gas that they're re-injecting into their wells, into their oil wells to keep the pressure rates. So more and more of their natural gas supply domestically has been diverted to that, which has resulted in not enough, particularly in the winter. Uh, this past winter, you may have remembered in either January or February, for 2 or 3 weeks, there was a huge issue of lack of heating up in the northern regions of Iran. There was a severe issue with that because there was not enough gas in the system. A lot of which now has to do with the fact that they are diverting so much of it to re-injecting into their oil fields to maintain their oil output, and also the fact that they are also having the same kind of issues with their gas infrastructure as well, especially since a lot of their gas stuff is offshore, which is more complex and maintenance intensive than regular conventional onshore stuff. So their main provider of equipment and stuff in the past was Russia, who was predominantly getting their stuff from the West. And now that they were cut off by the West, they were getting over the past 3 years or so whatever China was willing to buy and then sell them as a third party. However, China's gradually started cutting them off from that. So Russia was already like on a thin margin with that, and thus they had to choose whether to like keep all of what they were able to get their hands on for themselves or to give some of it to Iran. And to the surprise of hopefully no one, Russia has chosen to keep basically all of it for itself. So Iran's been left without a real supplier of critical oil and gas infrastructure components. So their gas production itself has actually dropped from 26 or 27 billion cubic feet per day down to around 21 or 22. And that would already be a problem even without them, having to divert so much to repressurize their oil fields. But so that is also a thing that is ongoing. And we'll obviously still be waiting to see whether the IDF actually does conduct airstrikes on any of their oil and gas infrastructure. Uh, the U.S. and associated friends behind the scenes are really, really pulling on Israel's chain about that, about avoiding that, because we're really, really not interested in massive oil price spikes, which the spreading of the conflict to the predominant Persian Gulf area, along with such a large production capacity of oil and gas being targeted and potentially taken offline, would cause a decent oil price spike, likely in the dozens of dollars at once, which is also the reason we are likely pressing Israel to do this if they are going to do it on a weekend, so that the market will have like at least 24 or 48 hours to absorb the specifics of the information and have a smaller price spike when the markets open on a Monday, rather than a massive upsurge all at once. So like jumping by $30 per barrel upwards instead of by like 50 or 60. Anybody show up? Uh, Permian. I covered that in the I covered that in the video. The U.S. oil production is about to peak video. We were going to talk about that in this anyways, so we'll swing over to the U.S. So if you go look at that video, you'll find it's full of comments of people saying that I'm wrong and that US production isn't about to peak. Apparently, I guess it's just gonna keep going up infinitely. I mean, the EIA itself, the Energy Information Administration, already like has ridiculous projections saying that U.S. oil production is going to go up to 14 million barrels per day and then stay at 14 million all the way until 2050. But I guess people commenting on that video, and especially commenting on the posts on Reddit, were talking about how it's just going to keep going up. I guess like more oil will just spawn into existence and that there is no volumetric limit to the formations. I guess that like has to be the line of thought because if you like that the volumetric area has been filled at this point in terms of like regular spacing. Now, as I've showed you guys in the past on that video, uh do I have them here? Like, for example, this is from one area of the Bakken. You can see the horizontal lines are the direction of the wells horizontally, and you can see, and this is from a number of years ago. I think this was from either 2018 or 2019, and you can see even then it was already getting to the point where so much is stacked on top of each other. Uh, because remember, this is only a 2D representation. There's 3D space under this. But they're starting to look so stacked on top of each other because they are. Like I said, in the Permian specifically, in that video, they're getting to the point now where the new wells being drilled are only like 600 feet apart from each other in the three-dimensional space underground. Whereas to have zero interference, here's a shot of 3 miles by I think, yeah, 3 miles by 3 miles of one section of the Permian, and you can see how many are overlaid on each other like this. This one was from 20. This one was more recent, and is from the Permian, not the Bakken. But this one was more recent, from 2022. It might have been 2023, but I think it's 2022. This was a snapshot of one 3 mile by 3 mile area, and you can see how much is packed in there. But they're down to the point where they're only like 600 feet apart from each other. Whereas to have zero interference, you'd have to be 1,600 feet apart from each other. Otherwise, because remember, you'll get two circles, a circle there, and in the middle is the horizontal borehole. When the well gets fractured, the rock gets fractured, the oil follows its gradient and follows the drainage force towards the well borehole. Now, normally it would just follow that gradient. The closer oil would go faster, the further out oil would go slower over time, and that's how you would see the production rate of the well rapidly drop off over time. But if you move them so close that you overlap circles, then you get the effect oil in of the oil in the overlap area for the wells will be feeling pull from both sides. And so it will still move towards whichever well it's closest to, but it will do so more slowly than it would have otherwise because it's feeling a anti-force, a pull towards the other well at the same time. And uh, for like over even just overhead area, like here's an overhead I from 2019. This was from back in 2019, and this was an overhead of each dot is a well. The red lines are pipelines, but each dot is a well. And so this is the general producing area of the Permian. And you can see even on the surface area how much was already filled up back then. Now it's just completely plastered. So the remaining space is volumetric space underground in 3 dimensions. And that is kind of also being plastered as, implied by the horizontal wells in 3 dimensional space underground only being 600 feet apart from each other. in terms of its actual output, see which one's which. Yeah, the Permian is here. This line is the where the EIA forecast starts, so that's their expectation for the future. However, it's begun to stall now, whereas back here, that drop in stall was excusable because that's when oil dropped to $20 a barrel because of the pandemic. This stall out is not. If we go over to that's natural gas, that's tight. I don't like how dim this is, but yeah, it was rising fine and now it's flattened here. I really don't like how they did this one with these colors. So you might not even be able to see that, but it is flattening out. It's still going to climb up a bit for for like a couple 100,000 over the course of one more year, because that is the delay lag in the current wells being drilled when they will be hitting like maximum production, combined with the decline in the number of wells being drilled overall, which I'm pretty sure I also showed in that video. Uh, the delayed like production coming into effect that will hit over the course of or within about a year, and then the Permian will be like completely stalled out for the most part. And it's peaked around where I thought it would, like close to 6 million barrels per day. Sometimes it was above it, and now it's below it, I believe. So I got Permian right. I got the Appalachia gas production plateau right because I thought that would be in the late or in the upper 30 billion cubic feet per day area, and it ended up plateauing at like 37. The one I got wrong was the gas production of Haynesville. Yeah, Haynesville, that one there. I thought it would peak at like 13, but ended up going all the way up to 16. Appalachia is a combination of Utica and Marcellus. So these two here, these I'm trying to match these. I'm like, did you move them to different places? I think they're putting some within others that are like too close in color shading. I can't even tell. Now this is from the EIA's STEO, short-term energy outlook that they publish monthly, because they stopped doing the regular shale publishing, which was, really useful. So of course it's something they decided to cancel abruptly. Now they do this, which I mean is okay. I, I'm I'm grateful to God that the data is still publicly released in some form, but the color like blending with each other is just really not great. I don't understand how they don't have like a visual advisor or something telling them that this was a bad idea. But yeah, Permian is it's leveling out. It will go up a little bit more, but it's basically at its limit. Bakken and Eagle Ford are going to stay where they're at. Basically, Bakken's probably about to start going down soon. Eagle Ford has a bit more space to hold on for a couple years before it starts going down. The primary boosters that are still going to push U.S. oil production up higher are projects in the Gulf of Mexico that are coming online soon in the next couple of years, ranging from 40,000 barrels per day to as much as 120,000 barrels per day. And one of those just activated like this month or last month, and that's where the sudden 100,000 barrel per day jump came from, along with projects back up home in Alaska on the North Slope. I lived down in Fairbanks, where I wish I could still live, but that would require an income at least like 4 times what I make right now. Up on the North Slope, there are more projects coming online over the next few years, ranging from 20,000 to as high as 80,000 barrels per day. as Prudhoe Bay was here, and some stuff to the east of it has been done, and then some stuff over here has been done. And as exploration and development continues, it's basically west marching out this way. So the stuff coming online is around this area here out to as far as this little peninsula, with Smith Bay over here now transferred to a new owner finally who will actually take up the project. They'll have to build a pipeline over to the existing infrastructure. So unfortunately, well past when it was originally hoped to be brought into production, but now it's looking like at least it will get brought online around 2029 or 2030, and that will be a 250,000 barrel per day boost. With the current stuff that's about to come online over the next year or two, boosting home back up to about probably 600,000 barrels per day by, we'll say, sometime in 2026, and then other additional stuff that continues with the west marching along with that would be enough to basically float it around there until Smith Bay comes online in, we'll say, 2029 or 2030, and that will boost home back up over 800,000 barrels per day. But overall, U.S. oil production is now fluctuating around the mid 13s, 13.3, 13.4, and most recently 13.5. The upper 13 range is where it's most likely peaking out. Probably we'll see some of those like random, up spikes that last like a week or two. You'll see some of those probably hit 14, but it's going to uh, unevenly plateau out in that area for a couple years, being floated by the additional Gulf stuff and then the stuff back up home as well before it tips over. And I believe I should still have that. The future graphs, yes. So yeah, something like that. With this green line, that was early this year because I made this graph in like spring of this year. So go something like that, and like for a couple of years, it'll be like right there, bit under 14. Then we'll go up and over and down, and it'll probably by 2032 be back down to or under 12 million barrels per day. That's the reality of U.S. oil production. However, again, the majority of comments apparently seem to think, especially on Reddit, but then again, it's Reddit anyways, seem to think that U.S. oil production peaking is never going to happen. And I guess, from that, the other conclusion is that it is going to go up infinitely or it's going to plateau infinitely, and like new oil will just spawn into existence because reasons. That's not how it works actually, but whatever. Then oh yeah, other stuff. Sorry for spending so long on that. But coming back down to here, uh, Cuba is in a nationwide blackout for like 3 or 4 days now. This is not the first time. This has been happening constantly over the last few years. And this, along with everything else falling apart in the country, is why over 1 million people have fled the island over the last 2 or 3 years. So their population was already naturally declining. And if nobody had left right now, it would have declined from 11.3 in the mid 2010s down to about 10.9 right now. However, admitted by Cuba's own government, to my surprise, it has actually already gone down to about a flat 10 or possibly just below it, because they actually admitted themselves that it's so horrible that over 1 million people have fled the island in just the last 2 or 3 years. So the island is emptying a lot quicker than would have otherwise been forecasted, not because of increased death rate or not primarily because of a plunging birth rate. That is a thing too that is happening in Cuba because of how bad the conditions are. Their birth rate has plunged over the last few years from 1.4 or 1.5 down to between 0.8 and 0.9. So that is having an effect. However, the predominant, drop now is from everyone just fleeing the country. And I think at least kept one bookmark about that down here somewhere. Somewhere. There we go. Yeah, I did bookmark one just about the infinite darkness. The only lights, obviously, you can see are coming from car headlights. So Cuba has, issues. A lot of their power plants are uh, diesel or oil-fired power plants, which is not the best thing to rely on. And they're having issues getting the supply because they can't afford anything, and they kind of have to frequently rely on free fuel oil handouts from Russia. And also, their energy infrastructure itself is, can you not load a higher resolution image, Google Earth? That would be nice. No? All right. They can't really maintain the infrastructure also because they can't afford the stuff to maintain the infrastructure. So, it's not really something they can manage. So that's all crumbling and falling apart more so than it was before. Then we swing back over here and we have more crazy fun times with Hermit Kingdom and Rocket Man. So, according to North Korea, South Korea flew a drone over North Korea. There was no specific context attached, like where, when, how, for like what kind. They said there was a drone a couple days ago, and then threatened if they see a drone, no context again, then they're going to immediately declare war. They're not, they, or maybe they will. I don't know. Actually, I forgot. Uh, Kimmy Kim is like the one guy who like I really don't know. Maybe he will. Maybe the cult has actually lost it for all I know at this point. But so South Korea has moved some stuff, called some people up to service, and is prepping things just in case if that guy really actually does intend to just like go out with a bang or whatever. I should have checked chat as a thing. Uh, I've heard the name John Michael Greer before, or at least I'm assuming I have because reading it sounds familiar. Uh, but I don't have like a actual memory in my in my head of like what's what or who. I don't have anything off the top of my head. I don't recall any specific like what the specific trend lines are for water returning up the well water versus oil rates. I know the well production rates themselves for the Permian peaked in 2021 at 900 barrels per day per well on average within the first 2 or 3 months, and then they would drop down to about half that within 8 months. However, uh, by last year, 2 years later, without the data for this year yet, uh, by last year, so 2023, 2 years after that, they were peaking at only 800 barrels per day per well on average within what's now being drilled, and were declining down to half of that within only 6 months, and instead of taking 8 months to decline down halfway. So that trend is ongoing. We need to finish the year to get the data from this year to see what this year comes in at, whether it stays similar or goes down further. As 2022, the year obviously in between 21 and 23, was close to halfway. It was around like 840 per well as the peak, and then declined to half of that within, I think it was like 7.5 months. But then for last year, it was 800 barrels per well as the peak, 800 barrels per day. And the rate of decline increased, as in the time it took to get down to half of that, contracted back instead of by half a month, by an entire month and a half, to declining down to half output level within only 6 months. So the better case scenario for this year would obviously be, or sorry, the best case scenario would be that it doesn't change or that it even goes up. Better expectable case scenario would be it only drops to like, I don't know, 750 or 760 barrels per day per new well as its peak, and declines down to half within, we'll say, still 6 months, instead of contracting backwards any further. But like I said, the primary boosters that will still push U.S. production up a bit higher over the next few years are mainly from bigger projects in the Gulf and the collection of things back up home on the North Slope. And the Permian will coast itself a bit, but then it's going to hit the slump. Eagle Ford will coast a bit longer. It'll take it a few years before it starts going down, but that is also coming. I don't remember if I mentioned in the video for U.S. peak oil production, but there are areas in the Bakken, particularly up here, that if you look at the map, it looks like they're untouched, and they mostly are. However, those areas are deeper and also in a less permeable layer. It's like shale mixed in with other stuff. Like it's a blended rock layer, so it's not as viable. And it could be done. It could be extracted. However, the companies operating there said it would need a consistent oil price to break even of like 80 or 85 barrels a day to get those areas, which, doesn't, since people usually get confused about that, that does not mean oil touches 80 barrels per day, they're going to go into those areas. That they want to make money. So oil would have to consistently stay some margin above that. Like, so we'll say at least 20 or 25% above 80 barrels per day consistently, for a period of time for them to consider those like then a viable asset to pursue. And although oil should be a bit higher now, it's not. Uh, the market, as the supposed sentient entity it's usually phrased as, is doing that thing where it just goes in a circle with its own thoughts and doesn't like actually want to pay attention to things, like the ongoing situation over there, and also China's demand numbers, because the market has constantly been expecting or forecasting China's oil demand to abruptly fall from 17 million barrels per day down to 16 or 15. Such an abrupt and semi-permanent drop is not coming until the Taiwan invasion, but they have kept expecting that like all of this year. And for at least the last 3 or 4 months now, China's oil demand levels have stayed pretty consistently in the lower 17s, fluctuating between or 16.9, I think it got down to at one point, and up to 17.4 or 17.3. So the sudden Chinese lower demand numbers are not materializing, but the market keeps like wanting to ignore that and just keeps repeating, uh, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. So oil is down at around 70 at the moment when it should be, a bit higher. Silver, at the very least, no, that's not what I'm looking for. Here, we go here, we go here, and no, we're not going there, we're going here. Unless it refell. It did not. What the? No, 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 don't mess with the zoom on the graph. I was trying to scroll down. Silver has gone back up and spiked up a bit more. This is the highest it's been in like 11 or 12 years. It's close to around $34 per ounce, which is basically within the range that it actually should have been for a while now. We're tipping into the point where it really should be more around 40, or at least closer to it. But I'll take it. Also, the market is not pricing it this way for the reasons that it should be up there. But whatever, I'll take it. Uh, yeah, it's the reasons that it started spiking are apparently something something Harris and Trump and something something European loan interest rates, whereas the underlying and true actual concern is the physical reality of silver supply deficit, which we are still in and going further into because the amount of silver being consumed is ever increasing rapidly now, actually, because we're building so many solar panels so obsessively. And silver supply, excuse me, click please. Silver supply is leveled for the moment, actually, but it peaked back here at about 27,500 tons per year, and it's declined by around 15%, and looks to be coming in. The initial like forecast numbers for this year look to be coming in not too much lower than last year, but about like 2 or 3% down from last year's numbers. So it goes from there. It went up to here, and basically looks like it's going to go back down to where that was or slightly below that for this year's numbers. Whereas silver demand is in overshoot of the supply and has been since the mid 2010s and is continuing to go up. The biggest contributor of which is, we go out here. Do I have it screenshotted in data caps? I might. This is from the previous year, but yeah, photovoltaics or the manufacturing of solar panels ballooned 4 times from 2014 up to 2023. And then we have actually the modern, the most recent one, the World Silver Survey 2024. Oh man, there's 92 pages. I forgot. Okay, bear with me. We're gonna have to find this. Or is it already there? Oh, wow, that was easy. Okay, so where is it? Photovoltaics. Yeah, so now we're up to 230 million ounces on schedule to be consumed this year to make solar panels, which is, close to 6 times as much was consumed in 2014. So that is just going up, up, and up on up. And the total above ground, like on hand inventories that can like be accessed and bought to fill the ongoing supply gaps have been eroded in the last few years, especially have been eroded by around 60%. Likely another 10 or 15% coming off of that this year once we get the numbers sometime in the early part of next year. So silver should be climbing, not for the reasons that they're listing it, but it should be going upwards. And what else did we have? Oh, yeah, some targets hit in Russia. So in Bryansk, a electronics factory was hit, and a military aerospace manufacturer manufacturing like components and cockpit instruments and control systems and stuff for Russian fighter jets and combat aircraft. Both of those were hit by beaver drone swarms, along with a power plant in the Tula region and a rubber manufacturing plant. And then elsewhere, Russia lost a uh, not officially part of its military, but a private, private affairs thing. Military cargo transport was shot down in Sudan, ironically by the group in Sudan that Russia is actually supporting and supplying the weapons to. That's their cargo transports are transporting there. So that was a uh, irony face slap moment. I don't think there's too much else going on. So that's probably going to be the end of things this time, and I promised I would keep it short. Anyways, doing it in the middle of the week again, just to give myself the room to get online and stream in the immediate aftermath if the IDF is going to do the retaliatory airstrike stuff this weekend, since they did not do it last weekend. But like I said, the shipment of the THAAD systems to Israel from the U.S., I do take that as a suspected indication that we believe Iran actually will do a third ballistic missile wave in the aftermath of this. But we will see. Obviously, also heavily doubt they're going to back up their random threat they made like 2 weeks ago, saying that if Israel attacks them, then they're going to launch strikes on like the oil and gas infrastructure of all the other Persian Gulf members for the sake of hurting the US and the rest of the outside world. I really, really doubt that one, because that would, that would be like the big no-no that would turn the, rest of even big portions of the non like Israeli aligned outside world against them, and would be like regime level suicide. So highly doubt they're gonna do that. But launching another ballistic missile wave at Israel, uh, maybe. Again, their record of backing up threats is like 2 out of 8, which over the course of the past year since everything started in last October, they've made 8 different like big threats and they've backed up 2 of them. So that's like a 25% chance. Obviously, if they back up the retaliating against Israel's airstrikes when Israel actually makes the airstrikes, if they actually back up this threat, then that'll up the percentage of frequency. But the whole launching missiles at like the other Persian Gulf members' oil infrastructure, that's not happening. Now let me sip some water. I'll check chat again, and then this is probably going to be over. We have over here. Ah, uh, are you my Matt joking, or are you a different Matt? Where's the go-to channel? Ah, of course. Okay. You are not my Matt. Right. Then we get a, where is it? Get a van. There we go. All right. And I don't see anything else from anybody here other than the it was the CIA because the CIA is behind everything ever comments. So if there's any other comments, then I will give like a 20-second delay thing and then respond to those. If any of you know where the whole CIA like YouTuber sign up thing is, though, can you like give me a thing for that? Because I mean, supposedly they pay at least like 60 grand a year for all of the supposed rumors of from like every YouTuber I've seen who's been like accused of being a CIA show. I and if they could like give me if they could give me some of all that like drawing MS Paint on Google Maps stuff that professional CIA show streamers do, then give me some of that for free. That would be nice too. But no, my $4,000 per year at best income is not CIA. Nobody else? All right, then that is going to be it here. So I will see you guys around next time. The oil demand levels video should come soon. Uh, there's something else I was going to work on recently that is escaping my mind at the moment. But another like non video that's not just like regular monthly data stuff that maybe hopefully might come out next week or something. But that'll all depend. But we got nothing from. Oh well now there's one other chat thing, but very last second. So I mean stuff like a lot of really specific stuff has to happen for me to do launch streams. And also remember, part of the launch streams, Emil, was because I was a lot less concise and would do and would like respond to one thing with like 30 minutes of off rambling. I'm trying to like appease previous complaints by like actually being more concise with stuff. And I still ended up like going into the whole US oil production peaking thing for like 20 minutes when I was hoping it would be like 5 or 10. But if we hit another point, like especially back early this year at the very beginning, yeah, those were like 2 and 3 hour streams because like huge amounts of like different individual specific stuff was all happening at once in like each individual week. That's not the case at the moment. It might happen again at some point. And I mean, I also might do streams again soon-ish about like topics and stuff like I used to do a little while ago. But I have to have things like prepared in advance for those. Anyways, that's going to be it for this one. So I will see you guys around next time.